If you are a Steve Perry fan, you have, without doubt, over the years heard stories about how meticulous Steve can be in the studio. To say that Steve is a perfectionist, well, that's a bit of an understatement. When Steve is in the studio, he is essentially trying to capture lightning in a bottle. It's musical magic, pure and simple, that he's after. And obviously, that particular quest is no easy thing. One might think that musicians that join Steve in the studio on this journey might not entirely be enjoying the ride. At least that's what I thought. Until Steve Perry fan and fellow YouTuber LJ345 from New Zealand sent me a link to a recent podcast that featured an interview with Paul Taylor. Taylor has played in some pretty amazing bands over the years. He was in Alice Cooper's band way back in the early 80s and then left that band to help Kip Winger launch his band. He stayed with Winger through their heyday and then decided to get out while he still had his sanity. Plus, there were other things that he wanted to get involved in. He had a bucket list. In the podcast, Paul talks about one of those bucket list items being that desire to work with Steve Perry. Through a common friend, Paul put out feelers, and before you know it, Steve was on the other end of the phone at 6:30 a.m. asking Paul if he was up yet. As you might guess, once Paul recognized Steve Perry was on the other side of the phone, he was fully awake. For the next few years, Paul would work closely with Steve. He helped him put together the For the Love of Strange Medicine album, co-writing many of the songs, and then later toured with Steve, supporting that album. In the podcast, Paul talks about the painstaking and time-intensive process involved in creating music with Steve Perry. He said the bands would come and go, often returning to record their next album. When asked if he was recording a new album with Steve, he would simply say, "We never left." So, does that equate to a miserable experience working with someone that was on his bucket list? Someone that he truly admired? Nope. In fact, Paul called the time with Steve Perry, and I quote this, his favorite experience. Wow, what a compliment. Paul also joined Steve, as I've mentioned, on the For the Love of Strange Medicine tour. In the podcast, he talks about some of the health issues that Steve was experiencing, health issues that forced that tour to end a little bit early. The difference between his comments and what we've heard from former bandmates is the compassion in his voice, his choice of words. He recognized that words do matter. Of course, this is no surprise for those who have followed Paul Taylor's career. He's extremely loyal to those people that he counts as friends. In fact, although Paul left the band Winger, he never left his friend Kip, and has in fact returned numerous times to record and tour with his friends. In the podcast, it is apparent that he considers Steve to not only be a friend, but a musical treasure. When asked about the occasional Steve sightings that have been occurring a little more frequently lately, and this podcast, by the way, was in 2014, in a nutshell, he expressed the same sentiment that many of us feel, simply that he'd love to hear Steve sing again. So that's it. Favorite experience ever. It was worth repeating again. Thanks again to Lisa, and a special thank you to DaSpudster01 for all of her amazing videos that she's posted to YouTube over the years. There is quite a treasure trove over there on her channel. If you're a Steve Perry fan and you haven't subscribed to her, you really should. So you guys know the drill. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. I truly love to read your comments and learn more from each one of you. As always, I'd love a thumbs up, and I'd be honored if you'd consider subscribing to my channel. But most importantly, thank you so much for watching.